Okay, we're going to see how to perform basic operations with integers. In this case, we're going to learn the basics about addition and subtraction, how to add and subtract numbers. The idea is that we need to focus on the signs. If two numbers have the same signs, we are going to add them and we're going to copy the sign. If they have different signs, we're going to subtract them and then we're going to copy the sign of the greatest amount. Always focus. Copy the sign of the greatest amount. Okay? Now, we're going to use a special rule when we get some answers. If the first number that we get is positive, we don't put the sign plus. When we talk about signs, we're talking about plus and minus. Okay? If two numbers have the same signs, it means both positive or both negative. If two numbers have different signs, it means one is plus, the other one is minus, or one is minus, the other one is plus. So let's see how we can use those ideas. So let's try to solve some exercises. Let's say we have minus 10 plus 2. We also could have minus 10 minus 2. We also could have 2 minus 5 and minus 6 plus 10. With this 10 first exercises, we're going to practice the basics. We focus on the signs of the numbers we see here, a minus and a plus. Are they equal or different? They're different signs. What happens when they have different signs? We subtract the numbers. So we are going to subtract and we're going to copy the sign of the greatest amount. So for minus 10 plus 2, because they have different signs, I am going to subtract them. 10 minus 2 is 8, and I am going to copy the sign of the greatest amount. The greatest amount is 10, so I'm going to copy the sign of 10, which is minus. The answer will be negative 8. That's how you solve additions and subtractions with integers. Now let's see this other example. Minus 10 minus 2. Both of them are negative. So what happens when they have the same signs? If two numbers have the same signs, you are going to add them and you're going to copy the sign. So minus 10 minus 2, I am not going to subtract. I am going to add them. The answer will be 12. But because the numbers are negative, I am going to copy the sign minus. So the answer, in the end, it will be negative 12. Now, 2 minus 5, same idea. Remember the special rule. If the first number is positive, okay, we don't put the sign plus. Okay, the sign plus, we don't put it to the first number that is positive. So, because the 2 doesn't have a minus, I know the sign of this one is plus. But because it's the first number, it's not there. But I know it's plus. And the 5 has a minus. So a plus and a minus are different signs. So I am going to subtract. 5 minus 2, 3. And I am going to copy the sign of the greatest amount. The greatest amount is 5. And the sign of it is minus. So I am going to copy the minus. The answer will be negative 3. Same thing with this one. Minus 6 plus 10. Different signs. I subtract them. 10 minus 6 will be 4. Now, the greatest amount in here is positive 10. Because it's positive, it has a plus, then I know the answer needs to have a plus. But because this is a first number, we don't put plus to the first number of an answer. So we're going to leave it like that, 4, and that will be the answer. Okay, those are the basics of how to perform operations with integers. So now let's try to solve some exercises a little bit more complex. Okay, let's say we have minus 5 plus 10 minus 4. What are you going to do? Well, we perform the operation with this too. Minus 5 plus 10. Different signs, I subtract, and I copy the sign of the greatest, which is plus. But because it's the first number in the answer, I don't put the plus. What about this minus 4? I copy it. I'm always copying the ones that I don't use. The numbers that I have not used, I copy them. Now, 5 minus 4, 1. And that's it. That will be the answer of this exercise. Let's do another one. 4 minus 12 plus 5 minus 7. What do we do? Same idea. We're going to subtract this 2 because this is plus and this is minus. Yes. So different signs, we subtract them. 12 minus 4 would be 8. I copy the sign of the greatest amount. The greatest one is 12, so I put minus from the 12. Then I do this other 2. Positive 5 or plus 5 minus 7. One is plus, the other one is minus. If they are different signs, I subtract them. So 7 minus 5 will be 2. But which sign am I going to put? Do I put plus or do I put minus? Which one? The one of the greatest amount. The greatest amount is 7, so I am going to copy the sign of the 7, minus. And the answer of the subtraction, 2. Now, what do I do with these two answers? Well, I continue the operations. Minus 8 minus 2. Both of them are negative. That means I am going to add because they have the same sign. The answer will be 10, and I copy the minus. Final answer of the exercise will be negative 10 or minus 10. Let's do 2 more exercises. Minus 3, minus 9, minus 5, minus 1. What do we do in this case? Well, we work with the first 2 and with the last 2. So minus 3, minus 9, because they have the same sign, I add them and I copy the sign. The answer will be negative 12. Minus 5 and minus 1, because they have the same signs, I add them and I copy the sign. The answer will be negative 6. Now, minus 12 minus 6. Because they have the same sign, I add them and I copy the sign. Minus, and 12 plus 6 will be 18. Remember, I am using the rules from the beginning. If they have the same signs, I add the numbers and I copy the sign. If they have different signs, I subtract the numbers and I copy the sign of the greatest amount. Last exercise will be minus 8 plus 5 plus 16 minus 13. So we work with this first 2 and then with the last 2. So let's begin with this one. Minus 8 plus 5. They have different signs, so I subtract them and I copy the sign of the greatest. The greatest is minus 8. The sign is minus. 8 minus 5, 3. Then the other 2. They have different signs. So I subtract them and I copy the sign of the greatest. The greatest one is plus 16. So the answer is going to have a plus. 16 minus 13 will be 3. Then, what do I do with these two answers? I operate them. Minus 3 plus 3. They have different signs, so I am going to subtract them. And I copy the sign of the greatest amount. But in this case, none of them is greater. I know that when I subtract them, 3 minus 3 is going to give me 0. So for 0, I don't need a plus, I don't need a minus. It's just 0. That will be the answer. That is how we perform operations, at least additions and subtractions, with integers.